Okay, so what we're going to do is we've got Nigel Bamford here, so I'll introduce him and then I'll introduce the next generation panel, and then Nigel can kick off with a bit about himself, and then the panel can ask if they've got some questions that are formulated. So Nigel Bamford is a Dunedin gas fire manufacturer. His belief is that if you want to grow a decent business in New Zealand, you're pretty well forced to sell offshore because of the small market here. So that means that you need to become a pretty open-minded company and need to understand other markets. The fire company is called Iskia, and it's the top of the line, very smart-looking gas fires that have been put into a lot of new homes. Nigel was about 18 and at high school in his hometown of Balclutha in South Otago when he decided not only to do something in business, but in one that could derive income from several different markets. This turned into a 7-year journey that included 4 years as production designer for a Dunedin manufacturing company, followed by 3 years managing the gas appliance retail store in Nelson. So along the way, Nigel also studied a New Zealand Certificate in Mechanical Engineering at the Otago Polytechnic. So this experience gave Nigel a great insight into the needs and wants and desires of consumers and an important apprenticeship for what was about to come. Provide them with feedback from these people about the strengths and weaknesses of the other products available on the market. So at night he would go home and write down what people had said and try and design a brief on that. He compiled a database of potential suppliers, including vague details of what the product might look like. And having clocked up some life and work experience by this stage, as well as market insights, he chose Dunedin as his launching pad for his own business venture, which began in 2002. So on the panel today, we've got 4 people that have been along to the Next Generation program. We've got Emma Coots from Timaru. Just a little bit about her. She grew up on a finishing farm with parents Murray and Jan Coots running a finishing farm for Rooney Farms in Timaru. So she's always had an interest in deer farming. She says she spent 4 years at Lincoln University, gaining a Bachelor of Agricultural Science with first class honours. Currently working with Kelly and Karen Hudson just out of Timaru on their velveting operation with 1,200 stags and 600 breeding hinds. And she has been with Kelly and Karen for about 2 years. We also have Daniel Spears from Takapau. Started out working in life and property management, then moved into the hospitality for around 10 years. Decided to make a change 2.5 years ago and has been trying to learn as much as he can and as fast as he can since then, working back on the family farm with his father on a farm called Maranoa on Takapau at Hawke's Bay. Also we've got Rachel Worth. Rachel grew up in the city of Dunedin as a city girl, but she always had an interest in animals. So she decided after school that she'd head to Australia for some farm experience for about 7 months. After that, came home and did a Bachelor of Science in Zoology, worked on a sheep and beef farm just up at Lee Stream for a few years before getting a job with Ag Research. At first it was on the sheep farm, but then had the opportunity to look at the deer farm, and now has been looking after that deer farm for 2 years, and she's really enjoying that. Further south, we've got Bruce Patterson. He's a deer farmer of 700 acres, Scott's Gap in Western Southland, which is a mix of venison and velvet. He says that he would have said more, but he's still thinking of the questions to ask Nigel. So good on you, mate. So what we'll do is we'll get Nigel we'll get all the panel up here, but if we get Nigel to come and do your presentation, and then I'll just be a bit of a gamekeeper as to questions that come forward after.
Great. Everyone can hear me all right? Well, it's good to be invited to be part of the young industry panel. I'm kind of young. I've been in, used to be young. I've been in business now. We started manufacturing in about 11 years ago. So basically, ASEA is a high growth, high success business story, which is what I was asked to talk about today. So I'm here to talk about business as opposed to, the craft of business as opposed to the craft of farming. I'm sure a lot of the other speakers have talked about the craft of farming, what it takes to be a spectacular farmer. But, we're all also business people. Around this room, hands up if you either own a business, own your farm, or have a senior role in another business. So how many? Right. Cool. So basically, the thing we all share in common is we're all in business. And what I've noticed in life, both running my own business, but also traveling around, seeing what I've seen hundreds of other really good, successful businesses. I've been making a bit of a science of studying, what are the things you see in common across all successful businesses? And I don't class success as still being there next year, making wage roll each week. That's subsistence, that's not success. And so I'm here to talk about that really small percentage of businesses in any industry that's really kick-ass successful. That's the one that stands out from all the rest and completely cleans up. Because industries need those. Your industry needs those. And I think there are some common elements that you see whenever you study really, really highly successful businesses. So the four that I thought I'd talk about a bit today were things like number one would be companies that really have a fanatical desire to really get to know their customers. And you saw a little bit in some of the slides before where your export people had been traveling to China, and you could tell that they had a really good understanding of their customers. But my point is that all businesses, including you guys in the production side, really, you see that across the board. Any highly successful business has an unbelievable desire to deeply understand their customers. So I'll talk a bit about that. The second point I have is around how, when you do that, you can use first design and then brand to turn yourself from a price taker to a price maker. And that was sort of touched on in some of the questions and the last speaker. So I want to go even to that because I think it's very relevant to primary industries. My third point, what was my third point? To have a crystal clear company vision. And basically it's all about knowing where the hell you're going. And you see this across the board with highly successful companies. They all know where they're going. And they've got some pretty clever planning methodologies to make sure they actually get there. So I'm going to talk about that. And my fourth point is all about having a deep culture of self-improvement within the business, that nobody gets up each day and says, let's just do what we did yesterday. So starting with that first point, what does it mean to have a fanatical desire to deeply understand your customers? So as the introduction said, it wasn't actually lucky. I moved to Nelson on purpose. I took a job running a gas fireplace retailer on purpose, and I spent 2 years deeply understanding who bought fireplaces. I understood the mom and repair, I understood the builders, I understood the gas fitters, and as it was said, I went home every night and wrote down what they said. I call them golden nuggets, little wee quotation mark things that someone said during the day. You think, geez, that really does personify what actually matters to this customer. And so all in all, I probably spent 1,000 hours writing our first company's product design brief / business plan. Now, I bet you my competitors, when they sat down to design a new fireplace, they probably put, a couple of meetings into the design brief, maybe 10 hours at the most, bit of research. Well, surprise, when we launched our fire in 2005, we weren't just moderately successful. Within a couple of years, it was the number one selling model in New Zealand, and then a couple of years after, it was the number one selling model in Australia. That wasn't an accident. It was because I really understood what the customer wanted. And I understood it better than the other guy, than the other brands. And surprise, when you deeply understand your customers and you deliver exactly what they want, and it's not just about the look of the product or the performance, it's about how you price it, it's about how you take it to market, it's about how you communicate. It's the whole offering. Surprise, when you deeply understand your customer, you can throw that dart at the dartboard and hit it smack in the middle. And whenever I look at other companies, I see that time and time again. I see those that really, really get out and look at their customers, talk to their customers, listen to their customers, are the ones that are really kick-ass successful. But that got us our first product brief written. But our business has been growing significantly every year since there. So of course we started with 3 guys in a shed 11 years ago, 12 years ago, and built our first fire. We now have 80 people in our shed in Green Island. We turn over about $2 million a month, and we sell fires all over New Zealand and Australia and a few to England and America. But we're growing at about 20% a year, and we have done for some time. So then it's not good enough just to have deep insights into your customer at the beginning, because that only gets you growth the first couple of years. To get the extra $3 or $4 million of growth that I need every single year, I have to have systems and ways of having continual deep understanding of our customers. And we have lots of ways of doing that. One of our rules is everybody travels. So we have a whiteboard at work that shows all the people that are away. I'm really unhappy if I don't see at least half a dozen names on that board. If we don't have 6 cars at the airport at any one time and people travelling, I'm really unhappy. You know how some companies look at their Air New Zealand bill and they get grumpy when it's too big? I get grumpy when it's too small. And we have other little rules, like everyone that travels writes a travel log, a travel report, which is a really complicated thing called send a couple of photos and a few words of what you saw and learnt that day. And every single night when our guys travel, they get home to the motel or hotel, wherever they're staying, they send an email, and they don't just send it to me, they send it to every single staff member with an email address, which is about 60 people in my company. So everyone in my company opens their inbox every day, and there's 2 or 3 travel reports. There's 2 or 3 photos of real customers having real problems and real things that are happening in the market. And as a result, everyone's informed. Everyone gets it. And when everyone gets it, everyone can spend their day making decisions that better fill those customers' needs, because we know what the customers' needs are. And that didn't happen by accident. That's systems, that's processes, and that's a fanatical desire to deeply understand your customers. So that's my number 1 point. Number 2, which was, mastering how to use design and then brand to become a price maker instead of a price taker. Now, branding's really important, but you can't put a good brand on a rubbish product and everything gets better. That doesn't work, right? A good brand tells the story of a great product. But if you don't have a great product in the beginning, then all the money with marketing agencies in the world is not going to be successful. So we start with design and the way we design and build a fire. But your industry is the same. The way you design your animal, the way that you use genetics, the way that you design your way you cut the meat, the way you process the meat, the way you package the meat, the way that you present that to a shop, all of that's design. No different than making a fireplace. So you've got to get all that right, and then you've got to get the brand right. And when you do